Welcome back to the channel, everyone. And if you are new, don't forget to hit that like and hit that subscribe button while you're here, and don't forget to hit that bell so you don't miss any updates, as we're posting updates frequently on our build and all of our market ventures here. We have been super productive this summer in getting our hands into a lot of business, so we're sharing what we're learning. Today is a video all about propagation and taking proper care of your cuttings. So let's dive right in. This stick right here is a mulberry. This stick right here with leaves is also a mulberry. Now, both of these are considered soft cuttings. This one looks like a hard cutting because in the winter time, when it goes dormant, this is exactly what your cutting will be like. So that's the only difference in the hard and soft cuttings. It's just the time of season. So your soft cuttings are when it's a non-dormant time and it's producing leaves and fruit. A dormant cutting is when it's in its dormancy and it's a hardwood cutting. That's very simple. We treat both of them exactly the same. We do pretty well the same thing. It just takes a little longer to pull those hardwood cuttings out of dormancy. So they've got to break their dormancy and then set roots also. That is why we like to do all of these soft cuttings, because all of these can produce very, very quickly and we can rapidly multiply all of our plants. So these cuttings I have here, this is a rather large one. It's about a foot, maybe 14 inches. This one is about 10 inches to a foot. So we have plenty of nodes. You can see all of the little nodes. Every node is where a leaf will come out. Now, you want to have at least 2 nodes, if not 3, in the ground. I have one at the very bottom, and I have one here and one there. So as long as you have enough nodes underground, it will take root. So when we're looking at these, they are about the size of a pencil. You do not want much thinner, and you don't want much thicker than that because they will be too hard to root, and the real thick ones tend to rot on you, and the super skinny ones tend to not root properly, and they get pretty wavy, and I don't like the success rate I have with those. We can take all these mulberry cuttings from tons and tons of mulberries that we have. So we could turn this exact branch into 3 or 4 cuttings for us. So the size does matter. On these, you can see the angle cut on the top of this to shed water and to tell me that this is the upward direction. The bottom is flat, so I know this is up and down, because you do not want to get your nodes mixed up and have this upside down, because it will not root properly. It may throw leaves for you, but it probably will not be productive and should be put in the correct way. Every one of our nodes and some of our barks on some of our hard cuttings have meristem cells, which, just like the name says, it's a stem cell, an undifferentiated cell that can be drawn up to be put into root growth or be put into vegetative growth on the top of the plant. So it can go up or down. So we're using the science to grow all of these cuttings and multiply all these plants for absolutely nothing. Now, one major point I want to make is that these cannot be in the direct sunlight. We do not put any of our cuttings in the sunlight until they're potted up and have been potted up for about a week or so and are ready to go and be hardened off outside. Now, we have our greenhouse behind us that we use religiously to keep all of our cuttings and to harden them off slowly. We start all of them in there and they slowly get pushed out. All of these have been outside already, so they are good to go. So none of these can be in the direct sunlight. When you take your cuttings, you want to kind of do it in the shade or in the greenhouse under some type of cover. All of these have filtered light. Our plants filter it, our shade cloth filters it. So if you can recreate some type of filtered light, maybe with a shade cloth or planting underneath a tree, you can have all of your pots underneath the filtered light of a big tree, and that will create enough shade that your tops won't get burnt up. That is what kills most cuttings. The tops will get burnt right up because they're not moist enough. That is why we try to get out here and mist these plants daily, if not a couple times a week at least, and we have not had any failures. All of these have pretty well been a success. That is why I'm making this video, because we had great success with this. So we've got all types of plants up here. I've got some sage. This is also a soft cutting, even though this looks like a nice hard wood. We can take every single one of all of these baby sage. At that one sage, we were able to pull just 3 cuttings right off of there. We didn't even have to cut them. We just pulled them right off. They're going to go right into our clay pebbles in our aquaponics system, because the sage is a little bit harder to root up. Like our basil, this has been about a week and a half of rooting from a pure cutting. We just cut this off the plant, stuck it right in our clay pebbles, and this is what we've got out. Absolutely awesome. We can just multiply our basil. We have a huge bush, we just keep picking off it and cutting, and we can take 100 cuttings in no time and stick 100 basil in, and there you go. So everything else on the table has been propagated just by the same method. Now, we don't use the exact pencil method when we are cutting on soft plants like vegetative plants or like a small cutting like these cold hardy kiwis. This is off of this plant, and it's been in there about 2 weeks, and it has full developed roots and can be potted up. Now that is a money multiplier. We've got our cold hardy fig here. I took another cold hardy fig cutting here, and I just want to show that I'll come by and I will cut and damage all those leaves. Now the reason I'm damaging those leaves is to make the plant panic, and it is going to start to regrow. Now it is going to put the growth at the base, because this will be either be in water or be in a pot, and it will start to regrow, and these leaves that we had cut will start to die back, and then we'll see new growth come out, and it will be a newly potted plant. Now all of these cuttings take time, some much faster than others. We've got our chocolate mint here. Now we've got some flowers on it, and you really don't want the flowers when you're propagating. So we would pick those off because we don't want flower production. It will put too much energy into the flowers as opposed to putting it into root growth. Everybody can see right up front here, we've got apples, pears, peppers, tomatoes, some more green apples. All of these are from our 3-acre property, and we're propagating all of these. We take our tomato plants in the spring and just multiply and multiply. Super easy to take cuttings from. We kept our bell peppers over winter last winter and propagated from those into our garden very early this spring. There is tons of plants that can be propagated with this method. There is other methods of propagation such as air layering or stool layering, which I will get into in a later video. Right now, I just want to focus on keeping your cuttings alive. After you get those cuttings out, get them into some shade, get them right in water. As soon as we take our cuttings, everything goes right into the water instantly. Maybe ice water even if it's really hot out like it has been here. It's been like a desert lately. We haven't had any rain except a massive storm that came through and knocked all of our fruits down. So keeping all of these cuttings moist and keeping the soil moist is very, very important. I have a nice mister setting on my hose, and I love to use that on all of these because it keeps all of our cuttings from drying out. Those tops sometimes need that moisture, especially when they're so harshly cut off the plant and stuck right into a new environment and forced to root. Sometimes they don't take too kindly to it, so we take the best measures, and we found a very good system for doing this. We have no issues. We can root these up in about a week, move them towards the edge of our greenhouse so they get more light here, and then we can take them right outside, and then a week later we're potted up and ready to sell. So within a month we've got a good turnaround on all of these plants. So we are always planning ahead. The tool that you are cutting with, this is just a cheap pair of Fiskars, but they are very sharp. I sharpen them up and we get nice clean cuts. You do not want any abrasion, you don't want any tearing or pulling, because that will ruin your cell walls. And in order to get a good successful rooted cutting that you can propagate into a pot or propagate right into the ground, you want to give your cuttings nice filtered light, and you do not want them getting dried out. You want them in a nice humid environment. If you don't have a greenhouse, I suggest using all shade and continually watering them as long as you do not get any rain, because cuttings absolutely need water. We're not always just rooting right into water like this and having roots look just like this. Like these mums, they're rooted right into soil. You can see that root development. Those have been rooted right into soil. We didn't use any hormones, nothing. We don't like to use chemicals on any of our cuttings or any of our plants or products or animals or anything. We like to have the most natural approach because these plants are for sale. They're for us. We eat them and our customers eat them. We want the best possible and healthiest plant to be successful for our customers. We don't want to use chemicals in our stuff. So if we have a finicky plant like roses or maybe this sage, we will stick a little bit of honey or a little bit of aloe vera on it, and then we will stick it in the soil. We will not stick it in the water because we don't want that to wash away. We want it to stay on the outside and get that nice layer around your cutting and help those nodes and those meristem cells start producing roots. But one thing I will say is that when you're using soil, we have a mixture here of our compost from chickens, we've got a little bit of potting soil, and we have our native soil. Now, we mix all those together just to stretch our soil, and it seems to be a very good combination. Every plant we put into it seems to like it and thrive, even our blueberries, which is very, very rare. Blueberries can be super finicky, and those are one that we have a hard time propagating. So we are going to use some aid in propagating, such as honey, or some type of natural stimulant to stimulate root growth for those. We found that it's super easy to grow all of your own plants and repropagate again, and we've been going off of the same plants from a couple years ago on certain varieties. We've had some peppers and tomatoes and stuff that we've brought inside in the winter and brought back out in the spring, and we've propagated off and set more plants outside and just kind of propagated away. Basically propagated our whole vegetable garden, other than like beans and stuff that we plant from seed. So not only are we making money off this, we are saving a ton of money when it comes to planting our own food plants and having nice pears and tomatoes and apples, all of that right at our reach. So if anyone has any questions on anything I covered today, I'm sure I forgot something, and don't forget to let me know if I did. Drop some comments in the section below. If you have questions, drop those too. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I thank you for watching.